Hello Eorzeans! Welcome to another episode of Remnants of our Realm. In the previous episode we looked back at Aleport, Semail Darkhold, and some lost classes. Link is in the description if you haven't watched that one yet. Now then, let's jump into today's first location, Vesper Bay. Vesper Bay was located in the far western part of Western Thanalan. It was the location of a chocobo stable and a ferry dock. This area served as a junction point between Thanalan and Lenosha. Vesper Bay was primarily just the ferry docks and chocobo stables. Vesper Bay was also located west of the Footfalls, the Coffer and Coffin, and Camp Horizon. And Vesper Bay was accessible through a cave tunnel. This area was highly active during the 1.0 era, as the teleport system at the time was based on a rechargeable currency, Anima, which was incredibly easy to run out of. So if you did, and you either had to get from Limsa to Ul'dah, or from Ul'dah to Limsa, well, Vesper Bay was your destination. Today, Vesper Bay has grown to become a bustling port city, much thanks to the Syndicate chairman, Lord Lolorito. And yes, that is a statue of said chairman. The chocobo stables and the ferry docks are still there, and another dock is located further down. The area also houses the Waking Sands, making Vesper Bay one of the most important areas in the game. However, if you look at the map, something isn't quite right here. The Coffer and Coffin seems to have disappeared. Well, there is an actual lore reason for this. In 1.0, the Coffer and Coffin was established near Horizon for Amagina and Sons miners working in the area. However, the mining guild quickly hit bedrock in that area and the inn started to struggle. After the calamity, the Coffer and Coffin was relocated to central Thanalan near Blackbrush, where the mining community still thrived. There are loads of locations like this in Thanalan, and we will cover them all in a future episode. /wink. Back to Vesper Bay. Ironically, the ferry docks are now more like a relic of a time past, as they will most likely never be used as much as in 1.0. Now there are two reasons for this. One, the new guild-based and more accessible teleport system, and two, our next topic, looking at a feature we no longer have in the game. Interactive ferries and airships. In 1.0, just like in Final Fantasy XI, ferries and airships ran on a schedule, and the actual trip happened in real time. This meant actually having to wait for the airship or ferry to arrive at the docks or station. Once boarded, the ship would depart after a set time. The trip from Ul'dah to Limsa Lominsa from Vesper Bay took approximately 10 minutes, and while the ship was in motion, you could pass the time by fishing. There were also random events such as Sahagin and pirate attacks, which you could avoid by staying below deck. Strangely enough, when it comes to airships, they too ran on a schedule, but instead of having a real-time flight experience, the game would show a short boarding cutscene, then fade to black, and show the arrival sequence in the destination area. This was a massive disappointment at the time. Despite this, the airship would still be visible in the air on its way to the destination for people not on the airship. Data mining has revealed that there apparently were plans to make airships act much like the ferries, like in Final Fantasy XI, where airships were massive and had both an exterior portion as well as an interior portion. But this was not implemented for reasons we might never know. Looking at the design of the airships though, they probably realized that they were too small to fit all the characters on, and it did not seem to have any interiors or other decks, so it was basically just an air raft? All of these systems made Eorzea's skies and waters look busy, and most of 1.0 players will probably never forget the sight of the airship docking in Limsa Lominsa's massive airship station while running around the streets. Today, the ferries and airships are 100% cutscene only, and does not appear in the overworld at all. One would argue that the airships and ferries are a bit useless today, except that one time you travel to an area you haven't attuned to yet, or if you're really low on gil. Do you miss the old system? Do you want the system back? Let me know in the comments below. I guess I can't put it off any longer. It's time to enter the Aurum Vale. The Aurum Vale was located in the north of Kurthus' central lowlands. Aurum Vale unlocked at level 45 and required a full party of 8 to enter. Inside, you were greeted with the iconic yellow piss pools, known as Gold Bile. In large rooms, not only did you have to worry about the piss pools, but there was a terrible piss gas as well permeating the walls, making it hard to breathe. An affliction known as gold lung. Many foolish adventurers had ventured inside, blinded by the dream of striking it rich, often mistaking the glittering golden pools for gold. But a more mysterious presence hides in the Vale. The Garleans. Where Samael Darkhold makes sense as it's a tactical location, Aurum Vale serves no strategic purpose, and we're left to wonder what diabolical plot the Garlean Empire had in mind when infiltrating this wretched place. I'm sure those poor Garlean soldiers regretted life once they entered that place. Poor guys. One day, an Ishgardian theologist goes missing in the Aurum Vale, and Ishgardian knights try desperately to rescue him. But due to the Garlean presence, the dangers of the gold bile, and lack of resources due to the constant fight with the Dravanians, they turn to us, the adventurers, to enter literally the worst place in Eorzea to rescue him. If I were them, I'd just let him drown in the piss. I mean, come on, you don't go inside Aurum Vale voluntarily. I digress. Once inside, boy, welcome to your worst nightmare. By far the most annoying dungeon in 1.0, this was a dungeon full of micromanagement and crowd control. As mentioned earlier, the dungeon had these yellow pools full of gold bile, and this lovely gas that caused gold lung that would constantly cause damage over time for the duration of your stay in the gas room. To combat this affliction, you had to fight your way halfway through the room and enter a path to the right. In this area you could pick up one of two fruits. One red and one blue. The blue fruit would make you resist gold lung by 50% for 10 minutes, and the red fruit would make you completely immune to gold lung, but only lasting 5 minutes. The fruits did not respawn, so if you accidentally ate more than one, well, you screwed up for one of your party members. Oh yeah, these lovely things are back from the Darkhold. Lovely. The Aurum Vale was home to two iconic bosses, the Coin Counter and the final boss, the Misser's Mistress. The Aurum Vale was huge, spanning 4 areas, 3 of which had their own gold lung areas. The dungeon had treasure chests containing portions of the Darklight gear set and artifact legwear for Black Mage, Paladin, and Dragoon. The dungeon was also part of the 1.0 Relic questline, where you were required to obtain 3 Misser's Mithril from the Aurum Vale. If you completed the dungeon in 17 minutes or less, it would give a 100% chance of dropping. In addition to this chest, once you cleared the dungeon, up to 5 additional chests would spawn if the following criteria was met. Completed the instance in less than 25 minutes, killed the Far West Slug in the first poison room, the dungeon clear chest, killing all the Imperial soldiers, and getting all 6 chests during the run. Today, the Aurum Vale is thankfully just a shadow of its former self. The gold bile is no longer in the air, only in the pools. The fruits are now only used in the first and last boss, and the Imperials have all packed up and left. No Imperial devices to see here anymore. The dungeon now only requires a party of 4 to enter, and most of the old areas are either blocked off or completely gone. Interestingly, this dungeon is the only one of the 4 instanced 1.0 dungeons that actually got its level requirement upped in 2.0. Going from 45 to 47. The location of the dungeon has also changed a bit. Seeing as Kurthus Central Lowlands no longer exists, it has now been moved to the very southwest of Kurthus Central Highlands, not too far from Samael Darkhold. On the outside, there hasn't been a dramatic change, but there is at least a proper gate there now, instead of the good old wooden fence they had going on in 1.0. Hope they locked that gate tight. I'm not going back in there to save another theologist. And that was the last of the Instance Dungeons from 1.0. But fret not, this series is far from over. But one thing that is over is this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the dark depths of 1.0. Leave a like if you did, and let me know what you think about the topics in this episode. Did you frequent Vesper Bay back in the day? Do you miss, or maybe want, the interactive ferries and airships? And do you prefer the 1.0 Aurum Vale over the 2.0 one? You're a savage if you do, by the way. Oh, and if this is your first visit here, make sure to subscribe for more. I'll be back next week with another magical episode of Remnants of our Realm. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal. Bye!